Hey guys, it's Tiny Tom Logan back with another video for you, and today we're going to take a look at a case from a brand new brand. I'm going to end up saying brand so many times because I already have done, but it's from Havn and it's called the HS420. And when I say a brand new brand, this is the first product that they have released. I've been very lucky to get my hands on one nice and early so I can bring you a full and hopefully comprehensive review. If you do like the video though, please remember to like, subscribe and comment. And to be fair, just get underneath the algorithm and like it, or leave me a little love note, a love letter or something. Tell me what you've had for dinner, because I always like looking at the comments. It does make me chuckle. Anyway, the Havn HS420. We are going to need to get comfortable because there are a lot of things on this case that I'm going to need to guide you around. It is not going to be a 5 or a 10-minute video. There is so much for us to cover. But I do think that you're going to enjoy it. And I do think that if you are any kind of hardware enthusiast, as we go through this video, your jaw's going to drop a couple of times. But I do honestly believe you're going to start imagining what you would end up putting inside this case. As always, we will start at the top and at the front, and I will give you a glimpse of the meshwork on the top of the case. But if we zoom in, we can see over here that we have the power switch, combined headphone and microphone, USB-C, and then 2 USB-As. But what we can do is pull this tab at the back, which is a nice kind of meshy kind of tab. I don't want to call it Velcro, but the sort of things you find on sort of like cargo pants. And then plastic top, and you can see the meshing underneath. I will say though that it's a shame that the meshing isn't removable, mainly because the majority of the time when it is and it's on the roof, I end up removing it. There are magnets at the back to hold this down in place though, which is a lovely touch. I will say later on though that they could have done with some magnets on the side. But that is the front and the top of our case. Now, I have removed the back panel and the roof panel because it's easier to grip the case here to be able to remove the front panel, or the side, the window, whatever you would like to call it. And effectively what you want to do in this single movement is kind of move up and forward at the same time, and it will unlatch. Now, just to show you how simple it is to put it back, honestly, I've worked with these single piece glasses before and sometimes they're a bit clunky. Once you get used to remove the top, get your hands on the side, lift forward, it's so easy and it's so slick. When we fully remove it, you can see on the side of there's a roller, and there's another roller at the back here as well. You know, if I get it in the light so that you can see. Effectively, the rollers slide down the side of the case over here, which is all lovely and really nice. There's another one at the back, and then there is a locating pin that sits in the front over here, and there's another roller built into the case, and it just makes the removal and refitting that little bit more slick. Now I'm going to leave the roof and side panels off for now because it's going to make things easier to move and also a bit lighter for me because this is an incredibly heavy case. We'll work our way around and then we will come back to have a good in-depth look on the business side of the case. Now, as we haven't actually technically seen the back of the case yet, I'm just going to put it on so that you can have a look. Now, effectively, it does just remove, and then it exposes everything going on inside, where you can get at the cutout for the I/O and your GPU, and where the fans can be mounted, which we will talk about in more depth in a bit. There is a dust filter down here on the bottom for this one, like it could be an intake. I'm going to say though that I'm not a particular fan of the top being an exhaust and then an intake just down here, and I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. I do think also that these fans or fan mounts could have and should have had blanks for them, and I'll explain more when we get onto the other side. But it is a really nice curved piece of kit that goes on the back here. It fits really nicely. There's magnets on it. It does make life really easy. Round the back. Now, the round the back side of this, and I keep having to move the lights around to try and make things look nicer and catch the light better, but effectively the whole thing is a giant piece of mesh. Basically, you can see the cutouts all down the side, and then there's mesh. Now the mesh is non-removable. You probably could if you wanted to and you got handy with a heat gun, but for ease of use and the way it was designed, it's not removable. I kind of wish it was. But in the back, oh my days, we've got lots and lots to talk about again. So we'll start up at the top left-hand corner and we'll start here. Now, all of the radiator and fan mounts have rubber grommets on them. And also, if you pull this off, there's little runners that everything runs in on, and there's more rubber grommets down on the bottom of the mounts as well. Now, there are multiple hard drive mounts in here so that you can mount 2.5-inch hard drives, 3.5-inch hard drives. There's access panels down the side for us to all have a look at. Zoom us out so that you can have a proper look. There we go. There's access panels down the sides for these 4 mounts as well. So they're multiple, but you can also remove these storage mounts. And then if you want, you can fit 120 or 140 fans, radiators, up to a 420mm radiator, plenty of thickness on the other side, but it's going to depend what you have in the bottom. I'll pop up the radiator specs above because, if I'm honest, I think most people are going to concentrate on radiators in the bottom and in the top. For ease of use, you can definitely get a lot more in the bottom, but there's multiple configurations here. I'm going to go out on a limb and I'm going to ask Havn or Overclockers, because it's kind of all in under the same big umbrella with Case King. I genuinely think you need to get one of your boys to make a click-in distro plate here, or even just a pump and reservoir square thing that can go in here, because I think it would be a beautiful addition. This is also one of the reasons why I kind of wish that the mesh was slightly more configurable, but anyone with a jigsaw could get their mod on here. Now, when we move on, I need to be behind the camera a fair bit for this, because you can see these rubber, we're going to call them grommets, but they don't look like grommets that we would normally see, and you can see that they're individual bands and they can be adjusted, but they can also have these combs put on them so that you can keep things all nice and tidy. And they do come with a lot of these combs in the box. They're add-ons, you can buy more of them as well. I actually really like them. I'm not so sure about the fact that you can see so much, but that could just be me being old. But there is an awful lot of other stuff going on in the back of the case. One of them, if you have a look, you can see that you've got cable guides all the way around the outside of the motherboard. That's a lovely touch. Lots and lots of Velcro tabs as well, literally right from the bottom. You can go right the way up to where your 8 pins would normally be on most motherboards, up the side with your 24 pins. There's lots of cable routing options there. Another thing, if you have a look over here, that is the first of 2 powered PWM hubs. On the hub itself, there's the input, so you can plug it wherever you want for control, and then you've got up to 6 outputs on this. There is another one down here, which I personally think is a torture device, because it's so close to the power supply. When you're trying to cable manage, I have shoved the pins from these fan connectors up my nails so many times. I have screamed, I have shouted, I have called Trev all kinds of names. Vino, you didn't get the blame, I'm sorry, it was all Trev. But I understand there's limited placement for us to be able to put these. But right here, right next to the power supply, it is just under the nail torture equipment, and I just wish it could have been put somewhere else. I'm not sure where you would have put it, but just here on this, like maybe it could have been up here or something, or pointing another way. It's pained me so many times, I'm surprised you can't still see the blood. Now, the power supply here isn't 160mm normal ATX length. It's a HX1500i. It's a big boy. It is fairly sizable. It did mean that I kind of wished there was a little bit more room for cable stashing. You know, when you need to get rid of the excess length, and this is normally the area that I would put it. So it did kind of make me wish that there was a smidgen more room somewhere, because in reality you've only got that much gap here, and then which is power supply width. There's no room behind, and it's just made life not difficult, but at the end of the day, you know, one of the things they could also have done was made a little cover that went over here, so that once you got everything in, you could literally just wedge it shut and like clip it in or something, so that then it was like done, covered up, and you wouldn't necessarily have to see this bit. And I think that would have been another lovely touch. Around the back of the motherboard tray, all of this section where the cable guides are is plastic, and it's an add-on. Now this hub for the Corsair Link that I've got here is magnetic. It would grab hold of the plastic because there is steel behind it, but it was never quite enough. So it did make me wish that they'd kind of cut this section out more so that we could have access to the magnets that a lot of the brands are going to use. In the end, I used double-sided number plate tape that you can buy from any hardware store or sort of like car parts supply place, because that's where I bought mine, and it's only like £4 or £5, but I put that on there and now it's stuck. But obviously because it's stuck, it's now not easily removed. But that's just an idea for those of you that then find this a bit of a dead space zone. That's the idea for you. With the mount in the roof, I did say to you up there about the 120 and the 140mm fans. There's your rubber grommets over here. And if you take that one and that one out, then basically what you can do is release this top one, and it means you can basically lift up the radiator tray, and it might make servicing or even installation that little bit easier. The same in the bottom. You've got the angled fan here. It is actually flat if you don't get the VGPU version. But with the VGPU version, you do get this angled mount and the glass that goes around the back so that you can direct it. I've removed the VGPU for my config, and I'll explain why in a minute. But the thing that I did want to get to is there is a screw down here, as you can see, hidden, and then once you remove that screw, you can lift the whole section of the fans upwards and outwards, and you will need to do that to add in the glass panel for the vertical GPU. Now we do need to remember, with the glass panel fitted, I don't have my vertical GPU in there, but what the idea is if you've got your vertical GPUs here and it's going to be blowing the fans backwards towards the motherboard, this kind of helps move the air around so that it can do like an S into your graphics card. Obviously with my config here, it's going to be moving it away from where we want the cooling in general, and that is why, dependent on whether you want vertical graphics or normal, you're going to have to decide on your layout for underneath. I've had to go with horizontal graphics because I'm going to be using this as a test rig, and I'm going to really struggle with the vertical mount. Mainly my struggle is going to be eventually I am going to break the riser cable. Riser cables are a lot better than they used to be, but at the end of the day, they are still fairly sensitive. They don't like being fitted and clunked around. I've already had 5 different motherboards in this case because we've had some BIOS problems. Yes, I'm testing Arrow Lake, but we've had some issues with issues, and it's meant I've had to fault find. So this is genuinely the 5th board that's been in here. I've ended up doing 3 Windows installs on 3 separate hard drives. It's been a complete pain. If I was using this, I don't think it would survive much more than a few months of the amount of abuse that I'm going to give it. So it does look beautiful. There's lots of adjustment. You can literally move the way it goes, so you can move it around. It's a little bit tight because it's not attached to the case, but it can be moved around. You can space it out. You can slide everything in and out. I personally do really like the vertical side of it. If it was going in my own rig, I would be using this. But just because this is going to be a test bench and I'm going to be testing all of my Z890 boards in here, I've had to err on the side of caution, so I've popped it out. Now, what I would say is if you do pop it out, there aren't enough I/O covers. It comes with 2. And this is a triple slot, so if you only had a dual slot graphics card, you're going to need a 4th one. You can see I've got a gap here, so that's just something I think Havn need to add more of those in there. If the VGPU can be removed, I think you need to have extra covers. I am being pedantic. I don't think many people are really going to care or see it, but it is just something, because it's a new brand and a new case, I do want to bring it up. Now, on the grommets, you can see we've got extra grommets over here, over the power supply, so you can pass your USBs through your front panel headers, and they do come with the combs at the end as well. I really like the look, and the idea of the combs is great. Once the back panel is on as well, it does look really nice. One of the things I will say though about the back panel is I do think the back panel needed better magnets or some little pop clips on it. The magnets are lovely, they just need a little bit more grab for once it's built, because there are screws that you can fit at the top, and I just don't think you should absolutely have to fit them. I think the magnets should be able to do enough, and the magnets are nice, but it's just not quite enough. It doesn't take much to be able to pull them off, and I think they should have had a little smidge more grab. You can see the magnets there, and they were carried on round on the other side. Now, as I've said, I will bring up the radiator specs and sizes so that you can get a good feel for what you're going to be able to get in here. I think the majority of you are going to have a radiator in the bottom, reservoirs up here, and then maybe a skinny radiator in the top. You will need to go careful with your VRM heat sinks though, if you're going to run a 420 rad. Mine just clears it. I've got the 30mm thick rad, I've got the normal spec fans, and I've just got clearance with my motherboard heatsink, but it is just. Because I've had many motherboards in here as well, what I can say is all of the motherboards have gone in. So I've had the MSI Godlike, the Ace, the Unify, I've had the Maximus Hero, which is in here now, and the Maximus Extreme. They've all gone in, so that's a big thumbs up. But you are going to have to go careful with your rad thickness up there. Down in the bottom, loads of room, loads of thickness. It's all going to depend on your how many fans you're going to end up running, whether you've got the vertical version or not. Because if I'm honest, if you're going to run the radiators, even though this is angled, I'm going to say buy the separate flat panel for the bottom, because I'm pretty sure Havn are going to sell them separately, so that you can just have a big fat radiator in the bottom and it won't really matter too much. It's just ideas for you there though. As you can see with the back, if I cover this up, you can fit fans in the back. Now the idea is, I think, that you have the bottom one as an intake and the top one as an exhaust. I really wouldn't fit this one at all, if I'm honest. I'd focus just on the airflow from these 3 in the bottom, because it's going to make things all confused. But also, like with the top one, once you've got a decent set of fans in the bottom and a decent set of fans in the roof, once you bring that up, you don't really need this as confusing airflow. So I'd probably just block these off and run with these. Now, the thing to remember is if you do put fans in the front, in the side and in the bottom, the ones up here are pretty much just going up here. And then these ones are probably going to go that way as well, which is why I've always kind of just gone for the top down. These side ones I think would end up being in there just for look, so that you add extra lights and stuff. And that's one of the reasons why I suggested Havn having a distro plate here, or maybe even a really large screen in here. You know, like one of those ones you could easily jump onto Amazon and get yourself a massive screen to go in here, and that would look absolutely amazing. And you've got a really nice big flat surface for you to be able to mount it to as well. So loads of build and mod ideas for you, just falling out of my head already. Now, I know you're all going to be screaming at me for temperatures and everything like that, but at the end of the day, the motherboards and the processors and everything are still under NDA. But the one thing I will say is they don't come with fans at all. These fans in the bottom are Fantex ones. It's what they sent me to add into it so I could add airflow in and to show off with you, really. I did actually get sent a lot more to fit in the sides and stuff, but I personally, like I said, I wouldn't necessarily run them. I don't like the idea of them being in the back either, which is why I've not bothered. So the layout that I've gone with is the one that I would use, which is why I've done it. Now, because it doesn't come with fans, you're going to have to make your mind up about the price. For the non-vertical GPU version, it's £199. I'll add all the euros and USD versions on as well. For the vertical GPU version, it's £269. Now, riser cables are quite expensive anyway, and you've obviously got the extra glass bit for the airflow direction, but this is a PCI Express 5 riser cable. So this is next gen GPU ready. We could say this is RTX 5090 ready. So I don't know how much PCI Express 5 cables would be, but the last time I bought a PCI Express 4 one, it was more than the £69 that they wanted for everything else. So I don't think the addition is too much of a price hike, if I'm honest. The only thing I would say is I really want Havn to be able to have the lower mounts available separately, because I think some of the water coolers out there will want the vertical GPU, but they're going to want a flat mount in the bottom so that they can have a better radiator mount, because you're not going to be able to fit a big radiator with that wonk on the bottom one. At that point, if you do want the wonky donkey, you're going to be limited to a radiator in the roof and then a radiator in the side. And it's all going to come down to your specified, what's the word I'm looking for? Configuration. Now, if you are interested in the case, you're going to see it with all of my Z890 motherboards. It's got the Hero in it now. Literally, when I finish making this video and I've uploaded it ready for the NDA, I have to take it all apart again because I need to put the Ace back in here so that I can carry on doing my processor testing. The case is going to get a lot of hard work. When you see the motherboard videos and stuff going up, and if you want to know how the case is getting on, please feel free to drop in. You can tweet me, you can ask me on Instagram, or you can head over to the OC3D forums, which has just been updated. We've not sorted the colour profile or anything out on it yet. It's still normal, but it's all super slick. It was the next phase in the OC3D revamp plan. And it will be something you'll hear me talking about a lot more moving forward once we've got a couple more things ticked off. But anyway, the Havn HS420, I love it. I love this side window. I love the mechanism for the side window more. There's lots of other small bits and bobs about the case that I do really like. I can see loads of you fitting lighting in the bottom where the intake is that I forgot to mention. Also in the bottom there is a dust filter for the lower fans. Again, I forgot to mention. How wonderful of me. But yeah, I can see people putting a big LED strip along the back so it faces forward, having it all wired in, and then you can have like an underglow thing going on. There's so many things that you could genuinely do to this, places that you could put lights. It's going to be a case for those of you out there with a bit of imagination, and I think if you just throw hardware at it, kind of like I have for this, but you understand why I have to. But I think if you just throw hardware at it, you're going to miss a lot of the possible opportunities that you could have of making it your own. Those of you out there, do spend your Saturdays wisely, brainstorming, making ideas up, buying bits and bobs to be able to fit in. I would love to see what you do with this case. Please tag me in it on Twitter at TinyTomLogan. Actually, please tag me in it on Instagram at Tiny Tom Logan, and I may even share it to go on the Tiny Tom Logan Insta as well, especially if you end up with a massive screen over on that back panel, because I've got a white one of these and I've been eyeing up trying to get a really nice big LCD screen to go, or IPS screen to go in that back section, because I think that really work well. But more than anything else, I want to see it full of water cooling, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what people do with it. But for now at least, I was going to say out, but it's one of those times where I need to say enthusiast award, because it's an enthusiast case without crazy enthusiast pricing. I thought it was going to be over 300 with this. So the 269, I think they've worked very well, considering all the extra removable panels and all the extra materials and bits of extra glass and single panes. I think they've actually worked really hard to keep the price amazingly down. I know it's not cheap, I know times are tight, but you get an awful lot of case for your money with this one. And the only negative part in reality is you're going to need to decide what fans that you want. But when case brands like this give you 3 fans and then you can't buy the rest, sometimes it's actually a bit nicer for them not to give you any, so that you can buy the ones that you actually want, and then they all match. And on that note, this is Tiny Tom Logan with the Enthusiast Award-winning Havn HS420 iGPU VGPU version out. Ding! Love you, sis.